This episode may contain language or discussions that may be offensive or triggering. Refer to the episode summary for details. And welcome to SheConfidential. My name is Charlene Ketchum, and I'm really excited today to chat with you all as we open up the new year. Today, I am chatting with Ms. Jacent Wamala. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist turned money mindset coach. She is the creator of the Money Mindset Makeover course. She's also the host of the podcast, Jacent's Gems. And if you follow her on Instagram, you know that she is always giving us a ton of valuable resources and information related to how to manage and grow your money. So thank you so much, Ms. Jacent, for talking to me today.
I appreciate you. I'm glad that you create spaces for us to have conversations like this. And so I just have to express my gratitude for all that you do. And we're going to have a great chat today. So I'm looking forward.
Thank you. So first, I want to just dive right into all the work that you do around changing money mindsets. And I know you talk a lot about that abundance mindset. And can you explain a little bit, how does the abundance mindset apply to money? Because a lot of times people think about money as just, I'm trying to figure out how to stretch it and I don't have enough to do everything I need to do. So how do we approach that from an abundance mindset?
Yeah, I think you've already kind of hit the nail on the head, is that because so many people operate in scarcity, right? That if we want to have a different experience, then we have to create one. And I think, I don't know if it's Jim Rohn or who says it, I think it's Wayne Dyer. It says, if you change the way that you look at things, the things that you look at change. And so if we're looking at things through a scarcity mindset, saying there isn't enough, or we don't know how we're going to make things work, or that things never work out for us, right? Because people will be like, oh, I'm so unlucky, like I never win anything, and all of that is kind of scarcity language. And then that's what we start looking for, and that's what our experience becomes. Just like, I say to people, in a given day, good and bad things might happen, but how we grade the day and how we perceive it is up to us. So if I get a flat tire, I could be like, oh, this is the worst day ever because I got a flat tire. That was only one event in the entire day. I might have had a great day other than that, and I can choose to focus on and see the good stuff that happened. And yeah, the flat tire was an inconvenience, but otherwise it was a good day. That's perception. And so that's what we're talking about when we say abundance, is being in control of your perception and choosing on purpose to operate in a way of knowing that, depending on whatever one believes or thinks, right, that everything is, being worked out for your best good, that everything that you need is on its way to you, are going to be provided, and that we're infinitely powerful. The way that I think about it is, like, if we have the potential to create human beings, literally, right? Like, we can create life. How is it that we can't create anything else? You know what I mean? Like, we can't create a life that we enjoy living, or we can't create opportunities, or we can't create abundance financially or in our relationships. And so it doesn't logically make sense when you start thinking about it like that. Like, we can create whole human beings from scratch, from nothing. But we can't create, like, having some good relationships. That doesn't go together. So operating in abundance, to me, truly is knowing that you're intricately connected to whatever you believe your source to be, and that your source is always looking out and guiding you to better and higher, more authentic versions and expressions of who you are. So then when it drips down into the money stuff, right? Because the money is just one place that this abundance or scarcity can show up. It shows up in spirituality, it shows up in relationships, it shows up in self-worth, but it trickles over into our money, where then we start to see opportunities everywhere instead of seeing lack and limitation everywhere. And that's what, to me, when we're talking about an abundance mindset, is that a lot of people will say, oh, I need to change my spending habits. And they're talking about their habits, but their habits are a symptom of their mindset. And if we can get down into the mindset and transform that, then everything else will kind of dissipate. Just like if you take, medication for whatever's making you sick, then you stop coughing. Like, it's a byproduct of really getting to the root cause.
Yeah. Wow. I just, like, your approach is absolutely brilliant, because I think so often, particularly as it relates to money, we just tackle it from a surface standpoint a lot of times. Like you said, we look at the habits, but we don't look at what's propelling those habits. And without doing that, it's kind of hard to break those habits. A lot of people say, oh, it takes 21 days to form a new habit. Well, you can go through the motions for 21 days, but if you don't change that mindset that created that initial foundation for those habits, at some point you'll revert.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. If people can create temporary change by pushing them through it, literally, it's also like, I know I can only speak to for myself, right? I know I personally have been in times where I'm like, okay, I know I want to be healthy, and now I force myself to go to the gym
Yeah.
5 days out of a week when I wasn't going at all. And I do
Mhm.
that for like a couple of weeks, and then I burn myself out. And I'm like, I'm tired. I'm not going back. So, the thing is that we can push or force ourselves through temporary change, but
Mhm.
that's not going to be sustainable in the long run. And that's not how you actually build wealth over time, because generational wealth is going to take at least a generation to create. It's going to take your lifetime to create generational wealth. So if you don't have a way that is sustainable and supportive of you being able to run the marathon and not the sprint, then you're going to tap out at some point and then fall back into, right? You said revert into the old mindset, which means the old habits, which means the old results of what you were doing with your money and everywhere else in your life too.
And I love that you point out that this is a long term approach, because so often, especially in this day and age, people look at social media and they think, okay, I can get this program or get this quick fix and it will transform me forever and ever. And it's going to happen in 30 days. Everything, 30 days seems to be the magic number. But I appreciate that you're honest about it. You're saying, you know what? Recognize that this is a journey for a lifetime, because you're changing a trajectory, particularly if you're in a family that didn't have that foundation already and you're creating something new. This is a major transformation. It's not going to happen in 30 days.
There's no way. I mean, there's just no way, unless you have like a come to Jesus moment or a near death experience. You know what I mean? Like when people go to the doctor and they get certain news, they
Yeah.
change their life, right? In the face of a serious consequence or occurrence that could
Mhm.
be the byproduct of them not changing their life. Outside of things
Mhm.
like that, like having a near death experience or something, 30 days is not going to be enough, but 30 days is enough to start and gain momentum. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that people are missing out on. I have so many
Mhm.
people that talk about and have questions around motivation and like feeling like it, and they're looking for the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Trade motivation for momentum, and that
Mhm.
momentum is going to be what helps you to sustain, because motivation is really the byproduct. There's motivation in the beginning of something sometimes, but that typically wears off, kind of like passion. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's not going to be there at the same intensity forever. So we can utilize that motivation to gain momentum, and then we have to realize there has to be a shift in the mindset that says, okay, well, how am I consistently going to execute the plan, even when I don't have the feeling like it there, so that I can keep and continue to gain more momentum, which is going to propel me forward. But typically, right, we typically feel good after the fact. So we feel
Mhm.
good after we said we were going to do something and we did it. We feel good after we said we want to take care of our body and we followed through. So that's the issue, is that if we're looking at a formula, people are thinking motivation plus something equals results, or whatever the case may be. And so really we have to figure out that, making a decision to act consistently is going to lead to results. What you want is the results. The equation, it might be different than you think it is. So I think that's what has to shift, is really understanding what's hanging you up and holding you back from making progress. And that, these, like you mentioned, these quick tips, or these quick ways of getting jump started, while they're great, I think they're amazing. I do challenges, I do, different things like that. That's to gain momentum, but then you have to keep the momentum by continuing to execute and be committed to the long haul. Like it takes a commitment, just like, marriage, right? Like when you're
Yeah.
signing up for this thing, you're signing up with a commitment that you're doing it for a long time. So I think that people haven't signed the commitment to themselves, to be honest.
Absolutely. And so, for those who have signed up for challenges, it's a new year. What is it? New year, new me. And people do all these different challenges. Understand that by the end of January, you probably won't have reached your goals. And so, it's at that point that's the deciding point when you really have to decide how committed are you to this
Mm.
particular goal, because are you going to continue to invest in yourself so that you can go to the next level, to actually get to that goal. Because the first few weeks, those 30 days, that's that foundation that's helping you kind of shift some mindsets, that's helping you get comfortable with the discomfort and making some of those changes. But are you in it for the long haul? If you are, then you usually have to invest a little bit more than just those 30 days. And that's the important thing for people to understand. I had someone who said to me, because I'm a proponent of hiring, everybody should have a coach or several coaches. You know, you probably need a wellness coach, you need a business coach, you need a financial coach, you need all kinds of coaches. And one person
Mhm.
said to me, well, how long do you have to work with a coach? You know, can they just get it done like in a month or so? I said it may be possible depending on where you are in your journey and what type of mindset blocks or barriers you have. But for most people, it's going to take more than 30 days. I think coming into it, just understanding that this is, like you said, it's not this sprint to the finish line, because you learn so much throughout the journey of it all, especially as it relates to money, because usually money management challenges, it's not about the money, it's about everything else. Everything else. And so for
Yeah.
you,
Oh, go ahead.
what have you seen? Like, what are some of the big triggers and challenges that people have around money?
Oh man, you mentioned it. It's instant gratification. So a lot of us didn't learn how to manage impulse control, maybe because we had never had the opportunity, or because depending on how someone grew up, the circumstances around money that have then conditioned them as an adult to have this way of relating to money. So if I grew up in a household and people said to me, oh, we can't afford that right now, or you can't have that, or we don't have money for this, or whatever the case may be, right? If I grew up feeling like I couldn't have certain things, I might become an adult who then gives myself everything I ever want because I couldn't have those things when I was younger. So I don't know how to tell myself no because I don't like how that touches something that I've experienced before that's unresolved. On the other spectrum, each person is different. So how these experiences get cataloged and manifest is different. That same family or household might have a different sibling where that person then turns into an extreme saver out of scarcity. So they never spend any money because, they never want to run out of money, So we can't dictate for every single person. It's not a one size fits all model as far as the challenges, because it depends on your blueprint and how you grew up and how you made meaning around the things that you experienced growing up, and whether you're working on those things now or not. So some of the major things that come up I see for people is boundaries or the lack thereof. So, not knowing how to set up healthy boundaries now, like the boundaries you had a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, they might have needed to be that way then. But we have to always constantly reevaluate and reestablish boundaries based on where we are in the moment. So, this inability to reestablish new boundaries for where we are now, and it might be boundaries with yourself. Like, I have a boundary that I, only spent, that's what a budget or a money management system is, right? It's about boundaries. I'm saying that this group of money is for this group of money is for that. And so we violate our own boundaries all the time, and we expect for other people to respect boundaries that we don't even respect ourselves. So, I think that's something that has a tendency to come up. Again, all of this stemming from the root of mindset, whether you are on a scale closer to the scarcity side or closer to the abundance side, which we're all constantly having to toggle between. And then the other thing is that people will always say like, oh, it's my spending habits. I overspend, or they talk about habits, which yes, habits are very important to focus on and how to revamp. But again, to me, your habits are a bystander. They're a manifestation of your mindset. There's something going on that's fueling you to then act a certain way, you know what I mean, with your money and your journey. So I tell people, don't get caught up thinking it's about your habits when it's really your mindset. And until you address that, you're going to continue to go back to, right? Because we like homeostasis. So your mindset is your homeostasis, your normal level. So unless we change what our normal level is to a different frequency, we're always going to at some point go back to that same frequency because it's what we're used to. It's what we're comfortable with. It happens to people when they start making more money than they've ever made before, that their mindset kind of pigeonholes them and it doesn't want to let them break through into a new level because it's not used to that, right? And so it's so much more about the mental emotional piece than it is about the logistics, because if you can Google how to win with money, it's going to tell you step 1, do this, step 2, do that, step 3, do that. And if it were just steps, like we'd all be freaking billionaires by now. It's not just the steps, it's this psychological, mental and emotional mastery. So it requires self-awareness and all these other things. But those are the challenges that people typically bring up, are things that have to do with boundaries, whether they know it or not, have to do with them saying it's their habits or not realizing what their actual issue is, and a lack of self-awareness. And so honestly, it also has to do with like self-worth. So it's not that it's tough to have the conversation, right? It's because when I start saying things like this, people feel called out and seen, and I'm like, I'm just telling you out of
Yeah.
love, like this is
This is
what I've
love.
seen too. That the more, and I didn't know this when I first started like my own journey, and I didn't know this when I first started working with people, but I would hear people continue to bring things up that would indicate, and I'm like, it has to do with like people's confidence. What is their confidence? It's connected to their self-esteem and their self-worth. So the more valuable someone recognizes that they are, not sees themselves as, because our worth is intrinsic. We came into the world inherently worthy. We don't look at babies and say, oh, well, they need to work 40 hours a week and they need to be producing results to be valuable and lovable and worthy. But somewhere along the line, we started seeing ourselves as having to perform and be perfect in order to, be worth, time and money and whatever. So though, yeah, those are probably the major challenges. The more that someone focuses in on recognizing that they're inherently worthy, that they're inherently abundant, and cared for, the more that starts to be a seed for abundance in their money journey as well as other places.
Yeah, you just said like so much. Like I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Because I mean, part of it, I think you were really called to do this because your background in therapy gives you insights to be able to help others do that work, to do that self-reflection and that introspection that they need to really examine that mindset. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times when you're, particularly when you're working with financial coaches, it's we're focusing heavily on the money
Hmm.
and not really understanding the psyche. And you've got to do that part first. And what I love about your framework is that in approaching it that way, you're allowing people to develop a framework to heal in other areas as well. Because when you
Hmm.
start looking at those boundaries, when you start looking at those, the way you define your self worth, it's yes, it will help you develop that consistency to accomplish your money goals, money management and wealth building goals. But and this is extremely important as well, it will also help you deal with stress, all those interpersonal relationships that are probably increasing your body inflammation. Because when you examine boundaries, it's not just applicable to one part of your life, it spills over into everything. So your framework is really providing a foundation to help people heal in all areas of their lives, whether they realize it or not. You may just be focusing on the money, but it's about everything. So if they feel
Yeah.
seen, it's because it's deep. It's that deep. It's triggering them because it's that deep.
It's true. I mean, and that's why, my community is called Wealth and Wellness University, because there's plenty of people who are rich and have money that hate their lives, that, have terrible relationships, that kill themselves, unfortunately. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many people who have money, but that are
Mhm.
not overall well. And that's not my goal, is to teach people how to have money without also, helping and supporting and teaching them how to create a life that they enjoy living, that they're proud of, that they feel is worthwhile. And so it's really the wealth and wellness at the same time. How do we build both so that one, you can sustain and continue, because it's going to take your lifetime really to create generational wealth and the freedom that you really want, but also that you are able to enjoy the journey and set an example for those around you and coming up underneath you, to be able to see as a model as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so important, especially when we talk about as women. So it's like you must have been in my kitchen earlier today. So I was on the phone with one of my good friends, and we were talking about defining success because she said to me, Shar, at this stage in my life, I have realized that I've always thought that once I got this degree, once I got this job, or once I got married, that I would feel like I made it. This is what I was supposed to do in order to feel seen or have my existence validated. Because she and I share similar backgrounds. We came up in very impoverished families and communities, and statistically, when people get caught up in the statistics, it can either really motivate you or it can really be discouraging. And she said, statistically, we were supposed to be all these different things, but I've done XYZ, and I've had to acknowledge that despite doing those things, I still didn't feel great. She said, I started feeling great about myself when I realized it's about just me waking up every day and being able to do more of what actually makes me feel happy, and just recognizing that I'm special and I'm great already. And we were joking with each other like, yeah, we came out of the womb being fabulous. We didn't have to, like, it wasn't some scale where we had to do things or accomplish things or acquire things to get to 100% of fabulousness. We arrived at 100% fabulousness, but the world tells you that it's the other way around. And that makes it really hard for, a lot of people, women in particular, because it can be so competitive for women. Do you have this career? Do you have this family? Do you have this certain body? How are you balancing all of that? Are you able to have it all? Can be, very mentally taxing on women. And so I think that one of the things that I love that you said earlier is just that we were born with abundance. It's the world that tries to tell you that you have to have certain achievements before you have abundance. But no, that's untrue. And by you approaching this with this mindset, it really helps remind us of that, because it goes to that quality of life. Once you believe that I'm worthy already, that gives you so much permission to do so many things.
Yeah, you stop striving or trying to prove yourself. Like, I feel like a lot of people feel like they have to prove themselves, whether it's in
Yeah.
their workplace. Now, being like a Black woman, right? Like, it's like feeling like I
Mhm.
have to prove myself as a Black woman in whatever environment I'm in, if it's the classroom or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. That's all from a place of scarcity.
Mhm.
All of that stuff, right? Is
Mhm.
operating within scarcity, as opposed to having a knowing that you already are enough, even if someone else doesn't see
Mhm.
it.
Yes.
That's someone else's limitation. That's
Mhm.
not your limitation. It's not necessarily for you to take on or make your own, right? So it's like we pick up
Mhm.
other people's stuff and then we make it our own. And we don't have to. We have a choice. So
Mhm.
it's figuring out, okay, well, what is mine? What do I want to have and own and hold on to? And what is it that I actually picked up that I don't need to keep anymore, that actually isn't serving me, that I actually learned from, a dysfunctional society in the first place. It doesn't even make sense to have kept that thing. It's all good. But I love that you mentioned, and sometimes it takes going through this journey to get to a point where you're like, the lesson all along was like, I've been lit, like I've been I've been good this whole time. And so I think that that's a huge message that all of us need to be reminded, like every single day. Like, I have to remind myself personally of this every single day.
Yes.
It's not something that is a one time lesson that sustains you forever. Like, every day you have to figure out, okay, well, what's going to remind me or
Mhm.
help me to return to this knowing that is true? Is it prayer, meditation, reading, reflecting, having conversations with friends that you know can help to reflect the right things for you? All of that stuff is always helpful for those daily reminders.
Yeah, and it's a day-to-day reminder. It's because life be lifing. And there are days, there are days you wake up and you're like, oh yeah, I'm on the bomb. And then there are other days it's like, I don't know about this. And that's normal. That's normal.
Hmm.
That's okay. And that's why all those things you mentioned, the journaling, the affirmations, and the value of your village, of your circle is so important. And that makes me think of your previous career and being a family and marriage therapist and just I used to work in family law. So when I
Okay.
saw that was your background, I was like, oh my goodness, she got it on a whole nother level. And I wondered, how do people apply things like the abundance mindset when we talk about managing and cultivating healthy relationships with other human beings who are balancing the same challenges, different types, coming from different places, but they have challenges just like us. How do we apply like an abundance mindset and just examine our mindsets and how they impact our relationships with other people? Or is it even
Oh,
applicable?
100%, 100% applicable. Again, the foundation is always scarcity versus abundance, love versus fear, right? And
Mm,
so when we look at it from that perspective in relationships, it's easier to use love versus fear because, a lot of people are fear based in their relationships. So, does this person care about me? Does this person love me? Am I good enough? Excuse me. Am I a disappointment? Are they going to leave me? Um, all of these things that is operating in fear that keep us from being authentically ourselves. It's kind of like, I don't know if anyone listening will get the reference, but like That's So Raven, right? She
yeah.
sees the future and then she does everything in her possible power to avoid that future happening, but her trying to avoid the future is what makes it happen. So again, to make it a long story short, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if my perspective is, I'm not good enough. I don't know if I'm lovable. I'm not sure if, someone will be with me or not. And this is all coming from, if it's not this person, then no one is going to love me. Then I'm going to be
Mhm,
alone. Then I'm going to be like a cat lady or something like that.
mhm,
And that's scarcity, right? That
yeah,
fear and scarcity go together.
mhm,
That when you operate from a place of love, then like you already mentioned, you came into this world 100% that, like Lizzo says, right? So
mhm,
it doesn't matter if this person or not loves you or cares for you or thinks you're enough, because you already have some level of that within yourself. Easier said than done because we all have our
mhm,
work that we're doing.
yeah,
But to have a solid foundation within ourselves, and I,
mhm,
I heavily work from what's called attachment theory. So for anyone listening who wants to dig into the relationship stuff from kind of the perspective that I use, there's a book called Your Brain on Love, and there's another book called Attached. And those are some great resources as far as understanding, how it is that we operate from our experiences as children, and it affects our relationships as an adult. And so when we're talking about relationships, to have a healthier relationship, you need to be a healthier you. You can't control the other person. You can't
right,
tell the other person what to do or who to become. But if you are seeking to be not better or worse, let me say, because it's not like the version of me now is worse than the version of me in a year, but maybe the more healed version of me, maybe the more self-aware version of me, maybe the more self-compassionate version of me, because
mhm,
we go in on ourselves and we practice self-harm mentally and emotionally when we tell ourselves we're stupid, or when we tell ourselves that we're fat or we're short or I'm black and this person's brown, and we have mental abuse that we essentially kind of carry out on ourselves, right?
yeah,
And so the more that we become a more healed version of ourselves, a more self-aware, a more self-compassionate person to
mhm,
ourselves, the more that it's going to be apparent in our situations that these people, places, and things are either supportive or not supportive. So if I'm starting to heal and someone is resistant to that, and they're not doing their own work, while it might be difficult to have boundaries in that situation and maybe have to have more space or have to disengage from relating with this person in whatever way, that's healthier for me because they are in whatever journey that they're in that they have to deal with. Now, if it comes up and it's kind of challenging for them, but they're committed to doing their own work as well, then that's where the
Mhm.
magic happens.
Yeah.
So oftentimes opposites will attract. And one type of person will be coupled or friends even, or co-workers with, or a boss with someone who is opposite of them.
Yeah.
And it's not a death sentence, I say. It's actually an opportunity for growth and healing, depending on
Mm.
the people in that situation. So at the end of the day, really, it's about you and your own journey because that's the only person you have any influence over.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully, in doing that, it is a model or inspires someone else to do their own work, and then you can more easily have conversations and manage conflict and compromise and all of those things. But we can't want anyone else to change something we're not evolving or healing from within ourselves.
Absolutely. Wow. Aren't we all so happy that you have had this experience as a therapist and now you're applying all those insights and talents and skills into this new arena for you? How did you make that pivot from being a therapist to being a money mindset coach?
Yeah, so I actually still do both. I still have a
Okay.
private practice.
Okay.
And so I still do the counseling work, and then I separately do the money mindset work. And so I think doing both keeps me kind of sharp and on my toes because I'm
Yeah.
in the midst of seeing and experiencing both. But definitely transitioning into, the money mindset coaching. A year ago, I wouldn't have even known what to call myself. I was just like, I know that I just want to help people understand that there's a connection here. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know what to call it. I don't know how to label it, right? And as humans, we love labels, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
um, but you can't let not knowing 100% certainty, like what that thing is, keep you from moving anyway. So for
Mm-hmm.
some time, I was kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just helping people do this thing. And I think what trips people up, anyone that feels like they have multiple callings, because that's how I feel. I feel like I have multiple callings on my life. I actually feel like most people probably do as well. And that's what makes it really challenging because you're like, I have all these ideas and I don't know what to do right now. And so it's really, how can you make space that you are dynamic and diverse within yourself and you don't have to do all the things at once, right? Rihanna didn't start doing singing, acting, movies, makeup, fashion all at once, but she's doing all of them, right?
Yes.
So it's really and it's about operating in abundance instead of scarcity. Because sometimes we'll be like, well, if I don't do this thing, well, am I ever going to get an opportunity again? And that's scarcity, as opposed to operating in abundance and knowing the season for each thing is going to reveal itself in time. And so for me, it was paying attention and being aware to see what time it was, what season am I in my life, and how can I take advantage and maximize that season, knowing that it's not just about me, but it's also about the impact and the transformations that I support in the work that I do. So, not getting tripped up on a name, a title, a position, the unknown, because I stumbled to get to the place that I'm in now. And I really honestly just now feel like I'm gaining a lot of clarity in it.
Yeah.
Um, After going through my own journey, which was about 3 years, and then saying,
Mhm.
what's going on here? Oh, this isn't just about me. Because honestly, I started my journey because I'm bougie. Okay, I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to make it rain at Ross because I love
Mhm.
Ross. Okay, but then I didn't recognize or realize until being into my journey and seeing other people ask me questions or whatever, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm just doing things like this,
Mhm.
that other people could be affected, or that this could be a thing, or maybe people need help with it. I don't know. Allow yourself to stumble through it. Allow yourself to make mistakes, ask questions, execute, and see what happens. Do an experiment. Honestly, I literally have a whole business that let me quit my 9 to 5 because I was experimenting, and the experiment, it went okay, but
Mhm.
if you never experiment, then you'll never be able to fix forward and tweak and get better and do things. People are waiting because they're perfectionists to have something fully formed before they ever introduce it to the world or to the market. I'm like, let's do it ugly and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of times, and you were totally describing me with that. I can be such a perfectionist. And for the longest, I was like, oh, I want to do a podcast. I want to do a podcast. And I was like, I don't know how to do anything technical. I don't know how to use Instagram. I don't know how to do all these different things. And I had all these barriers. And then I said, oh, all these other people are doing podcasts. Nobody's going to want to hear me. And nobody's going to come and talk to me. And I had all these reasons why I shouldn't do it. And I was like, well, why should I do it then? And it's like, because it's something I feel passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I want to talk about all the components of wellness. I want to highlight Black professionals. I feel passionate about that. I'm passionate about seeing Black women win. Okay, you know what? I'm going to do it. Because these reasons are good enough for me to do it. All those other reasons, I'll figure them out along the way. And it works out. It really works. It really works out. I think when you just chill, sometimes we just need to chill. Just have fun with it. I mean, seriously, you want it to be, you want to have a certain level of professionalism and everything, a certain level to it. But again, once I just like relaxed and decided to just chill, like if somebody it listens to it or watches it and it's not for them, that's absolutely fine. But my hope is maybe even though they were like, I'm not so much feeling the show, so I might not watch the next episode, but that guest that she had, let me go over on her website. That's a win. Or if one person watches an episode and it's like, oh, I never knew that there was a pelvic floor therapist and that they can help me, that I don't have to deal with chronic, with urinating on myself when I do jumping jacks, or, that my pelvic floor challenges could be related to my sexual discomfort. Like if somebody gets those things, even if they're not like a new super fan of the show, then what I intended has been accomplished. And so I think also redefining our wins can help alleviate a lot of those fears. And it's really important to know what your why is. Know what your why is. Like, and it's okay to do something because it makes you feel it's warm and fuzzy. Like for me, my initial motivation for doing the show was a warm and fuzzy. Like I wanted to really empower Black women. And that's okay. That's sufficient. Like I did the business plan and everything, but that one motivation, that's enough to just do it. And so I'm thankful that you just did it because if you hadn't done it, like you were really helping people transform their lives and break generational curses and just be their ancestors' wildest dreams and just heal in so many different ways. And so I'm glad that you were obedient and brave. Thank you for doing that. And I want to make sure people know where they can find you and utilize these resources and programs that you have. So can you give us an overview of the programs that you offer and share your websites and social media info?
Yeah, so I have to, also express my gratitude, right? Because it's everyone working in their world to help us collectively move forward. So you doing what you feel called to, me doing what I feel called to, anyone listening doing what they feel called to, right? That's going to be collective growth and forward progression for all of us. So I have to express my gratitude for you going with your idea and making
Thank
space
you.
for us to have conversations like this and all the other conversations I'm sure you get to have, on your podcast, because all of it adds up. All of it is significant in and of itself, but it also adds up and has a cumulative effect. So I have to express that gratitude and appreciation for thinking, to have me come and chat with your folks and chat with you. It's always an honor and a pleasure. And I'm most active on Instagram. So you can find me at Jacent Gems. That's JACENTSGEMS. And I'm sure the link is in the show notes as well. I have a podcast and it's the same name, Jacent Gems, where I have interviews once a week. I also talk about relationships and then money on Fridays. So I do my best to drop 1 to 3 episodes a week just to keep you motivated and have strategic tips and tools to progress throughout your life and throughout your journey. And so my program really is all about helping you get to the root of your mindset so that you will thrive in all areas of your life. Now, frontward facing, right? It's let's get your money right. Like that's the vehicle that we're using to help you transform actually your entire life, to be honest. And so it's me using my psychological background to help you hack your brain and rewire it for success. And we do that through the course, the coaching, and the community to really help you redefine, like you mentioned, right? Redefine these things such as, our self-worth, our success, our wins, and create a sustainable, wealthy, and well lifestyle so that you get closer every day to freedom and financial flexibility, which we all deserve, and it's all of our birthrights. So again, come and check me out. If you come to my internet home, where I'm most active on Instagram, don't be rude. Say hello, okay? You don't go to people's houses and not speak to them. And I will do my best to speak to you if you pop up and I'm able to send you a message myself. I love doing that just because I want you to know, like, we're actual humans on the other side of these podcasts and these YouTube videos. We are actual humans, and we love making sure that we can connect with the people that have supported and connect with us too. So I would love to be able to chat and get to know about you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. And everyone, yes, all of the links will be in the description box, whether you're listening to the podcast or watching the YouTube video, or if you go to SheConfidential.com, you'll be able to access all of the links for the programs, the website, and the podcast, and the Instagram page. So thank you again, Jacent. Thank you, audience. I'm Charlene Ketchum, and this is She Confidential. Until next time.